Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're well. Happy Monday. I am beyond excited to host this afternoon show today because I have the most amazing lineup of women from all over the globe, all in procurement, all with a great story to tell. And we're going to have our nice little chat about how they got here, what they think of the industry being a woman, their experiences, advice for up-and-coming women, and maybe some horror stories as well, because that's always a good laugh. So we've got 10 of us, so I am going to stop talking and start bringing on my lovely guests one by one. In no particular order, I will just click a button and invite the first guest up. So if we start with Ms. Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, how are you? Tell the audience who you are, what you do, how long you've been doing it.
Of course, I am so excited to be here. And Susan, congratulations on your new show because I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Welcome to the den.
Sorry?
Welcome to the den.
Yes, I'm so excited. So I am the founder and host of the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, also the Blended podcast, which is our new diversity and inclusion series. And we do all sorts of things like live stream events, podcasts, digital media, that kind of stuff. And then I'm also the CEO of Ships, which is a new online platform bringing importers, exporters, and freight providers together for your air and ocean freight shipments in like a bid and ship type marketplace. Nice. So how long have I been in the industry? Do I really need to tell? Because it's been a while. I've been in the industry for over 20 years. I've been an entrepreneur, though, for probably about the last 4 to 5 years. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Susan.
Cool. So we've got 3 ladies in red today, so I'm going to space them out. So I'll bring one of them on next so that we kind of so I'm always categorizing everything. Everything's got to be even. So
it has to be.
Pick a lady.
You wouldn't be a classification guru if you didn't.
I know, that's it. I apply it to everything. So let's add in Ms. Amanda Prachaska. Hello, Wonder Lady. How are you?
Good. I want to point out that I so like your glitter. You're shimmering today. I love it.
It's an honor of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So should I just go ahead and introduce myself?
Go for it.
So Susan, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you for bringing so many women all together that have had a direct impact on my career. I just feel so blessed to be here today. So thank you.
Blown away. Thank you for all agreeing to come here.
Yeah. So I'm Amanda Prachaska. I have been an entrepreneur now for almost 3 years now. It's just kind of crazy to think about. But I was in procurement beforehand for 16 years. And I really worked on a lot of large scale transformations, implementing SAP many times, many technologies, process improvements, et cetera. And I love procurement. I love everything that we do. I love the community that we have. And so I decided to go out on my own and start several different companies. One, HPP, that's focused on process improvement, people-driven process improvement, which I love. I also had the opportunity to build a community of women in procurement. Yay, get your shimmer on. Global Women Procurement Professionals, or GWPP. And we're almost 4,500 people strong now from across the globe. And so join us on LinkedIn or on Clubhouse. We would love to see you there. And then Wonder Services is all about engagement, marketing, and change management, which is just like built into my soul every single day. And how do we get change implemented in our organizations and the message to be bought into? So I just, like I said, just so happy to be here today. So thank you, Susan.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming. Well, my next guest needs no introduction. She has got up in the middle of the night to come and join us. So I am eternally grateful. I'm absolutely completely privileged to actually say hello and meet you for the first time face to face. Hi, Tanya.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Well, probably better than you, but thank you so much for getting up.
Oh, don't worry. When you live in the Southern Hemisphere, this is just a part of life. It's the price of freedom. Yeah, so thank you for inviting me. Really excited to see you all, particularly you, Sarah. I haven't actually, interfaced with you online yet, so that's great. And always lovely to see you, Amanda. So great.
Yeah, likewise.
So nice to see you, Tanya.
And
Thank you.
what, how long have you been in procurement? Tell us a little bit about Procurious as well.
Sure. So, well, Procurious is now 7 years old, and we've got just over 40,000 members around the world. Wow. So it's like a LinkedIn for procurement and supply chain. But yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and that's when I started my first procurement company called The Faculty, and that runs round tables and large networks here in Asia Pacific. So that's been really fun, and they say entrepreneurialism is in the blood, and my mother had her own business, so I guess I learned it from there. But I started in procurement actually in Pittsburgh. I finished my MBA at Penn State and got into it there and just fell in love with it. So super excited. I think it's more interesting than ever, more challenging than ever. And it's fantastic to see so many women joining such a fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait to get the discussion started. So I will bring on next Miss Schutter herself.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Yes. Hi, Tanya, so nice to see you.
You too.
Susan, thank you so much for bringing this amazing group of women together. I feel like I'm so blessed to have such an incredible tribe.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I run a startup. We help companies buy printed materials using a unique and cool technology solution. I have been in the industry about 15 years. I actually started my career in marketing. Marketing is my love and passion. And I transitioned into marketing procurement. And I just fell in love with the ability to combine marketing and procurement to do so much good for the industry. So I'm really excited about all the amazing things happening in the marketing procurement space. It used to be an industry where marketing and procurement hated each other and they would never talk. And we're seeing some really cool transformations happening.
Brilliant. Right, time for another red top. Ms. Cooper, how are you?
Hello. Thank you as well, Susan.
Bring another big one.
Inviting me on, and hello ladies, lovely to see you all.
Thanks, Rita.
So a little bit about me, Susan. So I started as an entrepreneur 5.5 years ago, which goodness, I can't believe it's been 5.5 years. It's gone so quickly. But I had a corporate career before then, and I decided to take corporate methodology and bring it into the entrepreneurial space and start, a solutions business. So I avoid using the term consultancy because I feel like we do so much more. But we're very much around the word novo case is the word novo is Latin for refresh, revive, and renew, and it's about taking a completely different approach to procurement. So that's what we do, and I love it. I wouldn't do anything else.
Well, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
And next, someone else that I haven't met face to face before, or even spoken to, I guess, apart from discussions on comments on LinkedIn. So, welcome, Kelly. So great to meet you,
everybody. It's nice to meet you all as well.
Yeah.
I didn't get the heads up, but I knew we were doing reds and pinks. I definitely am going to get a shimmery curtain for behind me. I absolutely love that, Susan.
You have to.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to have worked with most of the ladies up here on the screen and even a few that are still hanging out in the green room. I've been in procurement for almost 20 years. I've been independent at Buyers Meeting Point for almost 12 now, which is really fast. Wow. But just to keep me busy and keep me out of trouble in my spare time, I'm the general manager of Art of Procurement. You guys probably know Philip Eidson. And I just recently launched a brand new live stream through Supply Chain Now called Dial P for Procurement. A little bit of Hitchcock drama adding into the procurement and supply chain space. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be doing this virtual connecting and sharing with you guys. So thank you for having me, Susan.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We're going to bring on another lady in pink/red. Ms. McGovern, how are you?
Hello, Susan, and wonderful ladies, all of you. I'm honored to be joining you because you guys are the heavyweights of the industry, and I'm honored to be among you. So, Susan, thank you for everything that you're doing. Congratulations on the show. And congratulations on the Data Den and everything it's been putting out lately. So
Thanks.
I am probably, as I'm listening to everyone, I'm probably the one with the most seniority. It sounds like I've been in supply chain / procurement for 30 years plus. I've spent my entire career right out of university doing procurement, I was doing purchasing back in those days, and I progressed. So I've got some tales to tell. Over the course of my career, I've spent probably half my career in that entire time span, either doing supply chain, which made me work very, very closely with our suppliers, or doing direct procurement activities from transactional purchasing all the way through strategic sourcing and strategic partnerships. I have worked the majority of my career in the consumer packaged goods industry and the beauty industry. Spent the majority of my career at Unilever. I spent time working for Arcade Beauty, which is a beauty sampling solutions company. So I worked with the big brands like Estee Lauder and L'Oreal and Coty and others. And then I've also been an entrepreneur. I had my own consulting practice, which I still actually have, doing supply chain and procurement consulting. And I've taken all of that work, and 4 months ago, I became the chief supply chain officer in a not-for-profit called Food Bank for New York City. We're part of the Feeding America network. So, there are lots of synergies and similarities between corporate and nonprofit, of course. And there are some unique challenges that we face, but that's what I've been doing for these, last 30 plus years. So happy to be here with all of you.
Brilliant, thank you. Tanya, I've removed my logo from your head so we can see you. And I will squeeze you all up. I had to check before I logged into StreamYard today. I thought I didn't check how many people I'd invited to see if I could get everybody on screen at once. Fortunately, there's enough room for everyone. So next, it's Hayley. Hello, Hayley, how are you?
Yeah, really nice to meet you. Thank you, Susan, for asking me. I was really touched when you invited me in, because I'm not actually in procurement. So I'm a recruiter for my sins, ladies. So apologies. But I'm the ops director of Procurement Heads. So we are a procurement consultancy in the UK, and we specialise in procurement and supply chain appointments, predominantly around the UK. I've been the ops director there for 2 years. And I'm their EDI champion, and I've kind of made it my mission really to champion women in the profession. I think when I joined 2 years, it was quite clear to me that women were underrepresented, particularly at a senior level, and a lot of the people that we'd interviewed and profiled had been largely white middle-class men. So it's been my mission over the last couple of years to change that. As a result, around women at a senior level, I've got a mentor program underway to support all levels of an organisation that want to progress careers. So yeah, I'm really touched that you've asked me here today. Thank you.
No, thanks very much. And I've left her last but not least. She's in red. She is a millennial, but don't hold it against her. It is Ms. Mobley. How are you?
Hi, y'all. Not only am I a millennial, but I'm probably, what would we call me, like the featherweight of this group, in keeping with the boxing or MMA analogy. But I am so happy to be here. By way of introduction, I'm Madison Massey. I'm a senior account executive at a company called Fair Market. And so for us, we're an emerging procure tech company, and I sell intelligent sourcing software, which I love doing because when I think about how folks have historically bought stuff, definitely room for innovation. So happy to do what I do. And we're excited over here. Last month, we announced securing $30 million in Series B funding backed by GGV Capital and Insight Partners. And for those not familiar, GGV is the same firm that backed companies like Alibaba, Slack, Airbnb. So we're in hyper growth mode, but also super excited about the road ahead. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and you know, you are the next gen. I feel so old saying this, but next generation of like women in procurement coming through. So it's great to have a whole range of ages and experience, so that we can all share our different stories. So I guess the first question is, how have you found it being a woman in procurement? Anyone?
Well, let me start, since I've been you know, a couple of decades plus into the process. It's definitely been an evolution, and I'm sad to say that we haven't arrived as much as I would like. There is still a gender gap when it comes to salaries. There's still a gender gap when it comes to women at the top level. I think we've closed the gap over the last decade, especially, and over the last, 5 to 7 years, but it's still an issue. And this is something that saddens me. But, we are making progress from an industry standpoint. Procurement, as part of, traditionally, it's been part of the supply chain. It's been rather, it's been rather male dominated, engineering, manufacturing, and now as we start to really professionalize the industry, especially on the indirect side. So things like marketing spend and HR spend, it's becoming much more opened from that standpoint. But it's definitely been an evolution of higher professionalization, higher competencies and skills that are required to do the profession. Universities are now starting to put degrees where you can specialize in procurement. So we've come a very long way.
Do you think that procurement is advertised or promoted as an industry or as a profession career enough? I mean, I don't even think I heard the word procurement until I started with the spend analytics company.
Right.
Before that, I was like, "What's procurement? I've never heard of this."
So if I can take that one really quickly, and I would love everyone else's perspective, but our last in-person GWPP event, we had just over 100 people there, and that question came up during the session. So we asked the audience who actually went into procurement as their career choice, like who launched their career into procurement. Only 3 people raised their hands, right? Everyone else, it was like they migrated there somehow through their journey. So I think part of the challenge with women in procurement in general is where we start from. So if you think about universities, and I know you just mentioned more and more universities are actually getting procurement degrees, but procurement was always stuck under supply chain or something else like that. And when I was brought in, and by the way, I am a millennial, so there you go. So when I was brought in,
you've been hiding that from me all this time.
Just barely a millennial. But so when I was growing up, supply chain was manufacturing, it was logistics, it was transportation. And a lot of those traditionally have been very male dominated fields. So with procurement being kind of stuck under those degrees, I don't think we're attracting enough women from the very get-go. Now things are changing, luckily, but I think that's something that we continue to need to focus on in the industry around where are we starting from and how are we promoting procurement as a place to start your career, a destination while you're in your career, and a fantastic place to end your career.
Yeah. Tanya, I'd be interested, I'll come to you in a moment, Sarah. I'd be really interested to know what the kind of discussions on Procurious are with your members, how they feel about it.
Well, I think we're seeing a real heightening of awareness now about women in the profession. What I'm calling the pink recession is that I think COVID has just been a huge burden on women around the world because we've just been forced back to those traditional roles of doing everything, you know, both the physical and the emotional labor in the household. For those who have families, they're doing sort of the triple duties of childcare, homeschooling, keeping it all moving, their full-time jobs, you know, and all the sort of domestic chores. So I think we're really going to see a spotlight on, dare I say, the plight of women in the coming years and months, I should say, really. And Susan, I think it's great that you got everyone together, because I think we're going to be seeing a lot more discussion on this topic, a lot more calls for gender pay gap to be closed, and just more of a fair deal.
Yeah.
And I think we need to use our negotiation skills. It's a key strength that we all have. And we need to negotiate not just with suppliers, but with our families, our friends, our partners, to really get what we need to be successful in our careers.
Yeah. Sarah?
Yeah, so in my world, it's been really exciting to see new companies creating marketing procurement positions for the first time. So when I started in the industry, typically women went into marketing and there was no such thing as marketing procurement. In the last 2 years, I've seen more and more companies actually create marketing procurement roles. In the last 2 months, I've seen 10 marketing procurement positions created. And in that space, we're seeing a lot of women. Women are typically drawn to marketing. Women are rock stars and great at brand building and messaging. So it's an industry where I'm seeing more and more women navigate to. And I think we're going to see an explosion of women dominating and taking over marketing procurement.
Yeah, I so as a business owner exhibiting procurement events, I find that most of the women who are there are in marketing. They're not the business owners. And I've even had the experience of on the same day, a couple of different elderly middle-class gentlemen, white, coming up to me and saying, "You on your own on this stand?" I was like, "Yeah, is this your business?" And, "Yeah, good for you." And like, "Thanks," you know, and it's like, what? Yeah, so there's definitely, I think generationally it's changing, but there's still quite a bit of that going around. But I remember from the guys from Proctopus who were on a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about how procurement is more than just one thing. So you could be a negotiator, or you could be in procurement data, or you could be something else. And Kirsty's mentioned that as well. You know, there's more layers to it than just being procurement. There's lots of different areas within it. And I think probably that's a bit misunderstood.
Yeah,
so what
can I just jump in on that real
quick?
Susan? Sorry. I think she's absolutely right. I think, you know, when we're talking about procurement, we're also talking about supply chain, like Amanda had said. And I think what's happening is we're getting more and more education around, you know, in the colleges and the universities as to what supply chain is, but we're not getting a better understanding as to what roles are out there and what the possibilities are for the next generation coming into the industry. And I think, you know, we need to do a better job. I don't know whether it's, you know, industry and education together to really provide that overview as to what opportunities there are.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling like that there is just a gap between the education and industry, and no one really understanding the opportunities that await them in this amazing industry. And so that's really that gap that I think we need to shift fairly quickly so that we can get that innovation. We can get that next generation into supply chain, into procurement, into logistics.
Yeah, a couple of questions for Hayley and Madison. So Hayley, first of all, what's it like entry level at recruitment in terms of roles and things, and who do you target with those things? And then Madison, how did you get into, you know, how did you find procurement, and was it easier? Was it probably an accident, because that's how most people fall into it? But yeah, so be interesting to get your perspectives.
Yeah, so from my, can you all hear me okay? Because I don't know if my link's really bad. You'll hear me fine? Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit dodgy, but you're all right.
Yeah.
All right, good. So I've done quite a few careers fairs locally, and I think what's really obvious when doing them is procurement it's just an unknown entity. People don't understand the word. So I go along with SIPs and I fly my big banners and we talk about, the kids come to the table and they're just perplexed. They're like, what are you talking about? And actually, when you start to then say, oh, well, where did you buy your shoes from or your top? And they're like, oh, Primark. And then you can say, okay, how do you think it makes its way to the stores? You then see them light up and they have this interest. And the problem is at grassroots level, still, when you go to these fairs, you see big engineering firms, big graduate schemes, but they're very still manufacturing, engineering heavy, all about shipbuilding or, there's no variety there. I just don't think it's being taught in the sense is, okay, yeah, you get a law degree, you become a lawyer, you want to be you have to do X, Y, and Z. We're not showing up the early stages. So I definitely think at grassroots level more needs to be done. And SIPs, globally needs to take some of the lead in.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic we can move on to. How about you, Madison? How did you find procurement?
Yeah, I found it randomly. And for context, I was a liberal arts kid. I graduated from Columbia University, learned a lot, but really we were pontificating all day and going in no particular direction when I look back on the things that I was learning in school. And so not only was procurement never a conversation, nor was supply chain. And we were all kind of figuring out what we wanted to do in a lot of cases. So found it randomly on LinkedIn. Fair Market's now CEO, Kevin Frechette, he and I worked together fresh out of college. I wanted to be a journalist. Journalism wasn't paying the New York City bills. Fast forward, okay, I'm in corporate America, I'm in sales, was pulled in kicking and screaming. But we met, and so on LinkedIn about this time last year and came across what he was doing at Fair Market and in this space. Fast forward, I decided to kind of take the leap of faith and join. Still at that point, probably didn't know how to spell procurement, but so glad that I made the jump. And I think it was Kirsty that I saw in the comments talking about, how do we go about marketing procurement to future generations? I don't know that I have the answer, but I tend to talk about it as a cookout. You can bring the potato salad, you can bring the chicken, you can bring, the greens, and it's a party, and you can kind of find yourself in it because there are so many different roles and many of them are so nuanced. But I have found in the last year I've been here that there is absolutely a place for everyone. And I think it's events like this where a group of women can come together and talk about the spaces that we're uniquely in. And now people are seeing the representation and seeing that there is a place. You just got to kind of find it.
If Kelly, I could just hop on that. Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
So Kelly's being quiet, so I thought I'd just get her opinion.
So I'll agree with you, Madison. I spent my first day in procurement Googling strategic sourcing. So I think that's where a lot of us start out. I would also like to volunteer to bring the sangria to your cookout. I think for all the challenges that we've faced in getting more women in, and of course, I think there needs to be more diversity of every single kind within a field like procurement. I think we're particularly well positioned to really take over in the coming years, because as procurement becomes less transactional and as things like analytics, some of the more quantitative skills become table stakes instead of differentiators, it's going to be our ability to multitask, our ability to handle subjectivity, our ability to be strategic and navigate really complicated human situations that's going to allow us to set ourselves apart. So for any young professional women that are out there watching this, I think it's a great place to get a taste of entrepreneurship while being in a slightly safer, traditional type of work situation. It's a very complicated role.
Yeah. Anna?
What I wanted to top on is really it's going about where does the CPO sit in the organizational hierarchy, right? So the more we start to professionalize the spend areas, the more important the role of the CPO becomes. It really needs to be a board level position. And I think we're starting to break through at that level. And the minute that happens, it'll be a trickle down effect. But, to Kelly's point, the skill sets and the educational background that we have is really quite diverse when you're a professional in procurement. You can have a finance background, you can have an engineering background, you can have a technical background of any kind. I myself am a psychology major with a philosophy minor, but I've got an MBA. So you need to speak legal and compliance. You need to be able to speak regulatory. You need to be able to speak engineering and chemistry. You need to speak psychology and finance. So you need all of these skills, and you need to coach and mentor your suppliers as well. But as we integrate the supply chain, and as we become much more versed in the fact that our spend, 50% of our spend is outside of the supply chain. So it really becomes a business imperative to start looking at where we need to drive value. There are only so many places we can tap into without raising the price on the end consumer or the customer. So therefore, to drive the margin lever, you need to start driving value from the supply base. It's not about cost savings, it's about delivering an incremental top line. And our suppliers are in a position to help us do that. And that's what I think is going to make procurement attractive going forward. We're starting to arrive, and COVID has enabled us at a much faster rate to be able to do that, I think.
So we've got SIPs here in the UK and Europe. There's ISM, probably some other ones that I'm not as familiar with. Are they doing enough to promote the industry not to the existing qualified people, but the up and coming young people coming into the industry? Do you think enough is being done? I'm going to try and not put you on the spot. Yeah, because you're a SIPs chair, yeah.
So I say that you can always do more. I don't think there's been a more exciting time to be in procurement or supply chain than there is today. I think if you look at COVID, and in the UK, you look at Brexit, it is. Sorry, am I echoing? Apologies if I'm echoing.
No, it's fine.
Oh, it's never been more exciting, and I think we need to use that to our advantage. I do think the profession could do more in terms of bringing in a wider, diverse group of people. But I like that comment about Clubhouse. Yeah. There's always room to do more. And I run the social media channel for one of the regions in the UK, and we are always trying to reach out. And get new talent in and find new individuals that are coming across from different careers. But I don't think there's ever a wrong time to join procurement. I, like everyone on here, probably didn't start out in procurement. I did lots of different things. I actually started out designing international IT networks and wide area networks is where I started after a degree in chemistry, and then somehow ended up in procurement down the line, as one does. So yeah, you can come in from all different angles. But yes, I think SIPs and these other organizations can certainly do more.
And Susan, putting my marketing hat on, I would say I think there's a huge opportunity for organizations like ISM and like SIPs to be a little more modern and progressive and become a little more cool and hip with their marketing efforts, and form more partnership programs with universities, with high schools, to really build a funnel and make procurement, what's the hashtag we always use, making procurement cool. I think they can do more in that space. But I also think it's all on each of us as well to be out promoting, making fun videos, posting things on social. And when people see us out there having fun and building these incredible brands, they're going to be drawn to the industry as well. And because I've really spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, I get people now reaching out to me that are in college saying, I've got 2 years left. Can you spend 30 minutes with me? Can you spend an hour with me? And I am more than happy to spend time meeting with students to help them kind of navigate and figure out what is going to be of interest to them when they graduate.
Yeah, I guess as a kind of outsider, I find it hard to get into SIPs, although I do have some great supporters. But I'm on the committee with the ISM on the data and analytics committee. It's about trying to get more people into kind of procurement analytics and things like that. And I found it interesting because apart from the lady that runs it, I'm the only other female, and I brought a perspective to it already that the other men hadn't seen. Because one of the things I said was, well, like the data and the procurement industry can sometimes be a bit unwelcoming, more the data side, but you know, it's naturally introverted people who are not sociable creatures, so it might not necessarily appear like a fun place. So you know, we have to change that perception. So it would be nice to be able to get involved with more stuff like that with SIPs, but I'm not even sure if they have committees like that and things like that. So but yeah, so again, maybe that's a marketing thing. Maybe it needs to be published and promoted that these things are happening.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to jump on what Sarah said was being available. I think all of us taking a little bit of time. I know most of us probably don't sleep because, as you heard in all of the introductions, everybody is on this panel is doing so many incredible things. But just being available and being able to answer some of those questions or help guide them in their career. I know on, Clubhouse, we've been talking about that a lot. People are coming and saying, how do I get into procurement? How do I get into logistics? How do I get into supply chain and just get started? So I think being available, one of the initiatives that we're starting this year is to go to the students and be able to give them a panel of experts and let them ask their questions. And we're going to be launching that very soon, but also meeting them where they are. So one of the things we did last year was that the Let's Talk Supply Chain, we started a TikTok channel. And one of the reasons why we did that is because the next generation is spending a lot of time on TikTok and they're curious, right? They also want to showcase what they're learning. And so, we've had students that have taken over our TikTok to talk about what they're learning in school and what they liked about what they're learning. And so I think, that's another point, is to meet them where they are and to really understand what they're learning and help them spin that into what could be a career, but also let them know to just start, because at the end of the day, you never know what you don't know. And so you might start somewhere in supply chain, you might not like it, but as long as you're given the opportunity to move and try new things, you're going to find what works for you.
Yeah. And actually, I think there's a couple of new groups that have started in the US and the UK that might actually help that outside of the traditional membership organisations. So we've got Procurement Foundry, and the Forge Diverse Supplier Diversity event is coming up at the end of the month. And then we've got Proctopus, which is growing in the UK. And we're starting another tentacle called Proc Women, the powder room. So I'll have more information on that towards the end of the hour. But so maybe that's a better way to get younger people involved, because, Procurement Foundry's on Slack, it's all tech. Proctopus is just a lot of fun. So that could be ways to get around that. So any kind of funny stories like the example I gave at the exhibition where you've I've had, even now in the last year, I've had like meetings, collaboration meetings where I've had men try and tell me how to run my business. So I still find that's happening quite a bit, but I just wondered if you guys have any similar stories to share.
I'm thinking there's just so many of them. I'm trying to think of the one that.
Where do we start?
Yeah, I think so when we were setting up the Proc Women thing, there was a guy in there helping us sort everything out, and some of the stories we were sharing, he was just like, so I think it's good because we all know what the stories are, but I think a lot of guys and men out there who are supportive of women don't realize the kind of experiences that we go through. So yeah, if you've got any examples, I think it'd be really good to share.
So I think it's fair to say that mansplaining is alive and real, and I think that would be the one tip that I would give anyone listening is really to listen. I mean, it's not okay to have a 45-minute monologue with someone. You have to pause and you have to listen to the other perspective. So I think that's the thing over the years that I've just been fascinated about, is just, how much I need to learn off all these men. You know, it's incredible. And how much they know about running a business and procurement, and how little I must have to add to the conversation. So I think, you know, I loved the way Kamala Harris just, you know, I'm speaking, you know, you just have to pull people up and remind them that you are actually there and you do have something to add to the conversation. So mansplaining, that would be my overarching observation.
So if I could share a story about when I was in the procurement career versus what happened when I became an entrepreneur. So I was very used to walking in rooms in procurement, being the youngest person in the room and the only woman in the room. And I don't know if it was the way that I was raised or just the drive that I had, but I never let that stop me. Like I never lost my voice. I never said, oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't be here. I always had the thought process, if they invited me into the room, then I should be there and I have a voice. So that was something that I did all throughout my career. But then I became an entrepreneur and it freaked me out. It was something new. It was something that I didn't know how to navigate through. And I unfortunately had the experience of jumping into a partnership situation with a guy, actually a couple of guys who told me, hey, we've done this before. We know what we're doing. We've been able to scale. You need us. You can't do it alone. And it turned out really, really poorly, like financially, emotionally, ended with a big lawsuit. And I was totally taken advantage of. So I think there's a role. Obviously, we all don't make right choices every single day, right? On both sides of the plate. But I think for us as women, we also have to have the confidence that we can do it, right? Mm-hmm. That we can have that voice, we can proceed forward. Even if we're going into an area that's a little bit more unknown, don't feel like you need to have someone by your side that might know how to do it better. You can if if at the end of the day you analyze it. I jumped into it. Like I was like, oh, they're telling me that I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to partner with them. It's not the way to do it. So have confidence in yourself, know that you can do it, and don't feel like you need to have that male counterpart next to you to help support you at all times.
Something that I have noticed is versus being a small business owner versus being in the corporate world is like the women in this group, all the women are really supportive of each other and are here to lift and raise each other. Whereas I've found in my corporate life that most of the women feel threatened by their position. They don't want to share. They don't want to bring you up. They want to keep you where you are. Is that your experience as well, or?
I actually think that's a super important point, Susan, that ultimately jerks are going to be jerks. Yeah. And some men are jerks and some women are jerks. And anybody that's in an entrepreneurial situation and can afford to make the choice should refuse to work with jerks. And I can remember—
That's going to be the quote of this whole show.
There were times dealing with people and I would get so angry, and I'm not an angry person, but I would say, why is someone being so awful to me? He's talking to me like, fill in the blank, however you want to fill it in. And the best advice that I ever got from somebody on that front was my husband said to me, you know what? I bet you that person's a jerk to everybody. And so part of it is us on the receiving end, reprogramming our minds to not say, okay, this person is being a jerk to me or dismissive to me or anything to me because I'm a woman and they're a woman that doesn't want to share the stage, or a man that is just a jerk. Hey, you know what? There's all kinds of people out there. We have to choose who we put our time and energy into. And if somebody's a jerk, they are that way across the board all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I jump in on that? I think that was well said, Kelly. But I also, I have the Woman in Supply Chain series, and I had a woman, and she's in a high level position, that came on the show a few months ago and was like, yeah, you know what? For most of my career, I have not lifted other women up. I have not done what I should have been doing. And so, yeah, some people are jerks. Some people do it intentionally. Some people don't do it intentionally. And then later on come to realize, oh, hey, I should have been doing this a lot sooner. Now I'm going to make the adjustments and make sure that I put that into play in my day-to-day life so that I can lift more people up. So, I just wanted to bring that perspective too, because when she came on, I was, totally floored by the fact that she actually admitted it. But I think that's also the first step in saying, hey, I've been in the wrong and I need to do better.
Yeah.
And so I've never had a female boss. I've only worked for men my entire career. And I think one of the things that I've learned that's really important is to set clear expectations. So this is how I work. These are things that are important to me. And when you're very clear and open about that, I see it's worked well for me to have really good long-term relationships working for men.
Cool.
I also want to add to that, some of the best career highlights in terms of the fantastic leaders that I've had and the fantastic mentoring opportunities that I've had have been men who've championed my career. I also have worked for women, and two in particular were exceptional at bringing female leaders along. This is within my career at Unilever, but it is sad to say, to your point, Susan, that in corporate, women have not traditionally helped their female colleagues along with, at least in my experience, it's been the exception rather than the rule. And if that can't happen, then we're in trouble. But part of it is we need the men involved, and we need for the men to be listening and to bringing the female leaders up. And I think that's the key unlock. Once they are doing it regularly, then others will as well.
But it's kind of like a team effort. It's great to have sort of a male sponsor or boss or what have you, but I think it's that inflection point where women typically off board, where other women can play a really critical role, even on the emotional side, when it just all gets too tough because you're juggling so many balls and you really think, I've got to give up this corporate career. I think women and this group here can play a critical role in really nurturing women, getting over that hump and, continuing on with their corporate careers. Not that there's anything wrong with being an entrepreneur, but it's often seen as and it is a viable option, but we certainly need more women to stay on the corporate career path. So we see more female CEOs and more directors.
Yeah. And something else, I guess, because we're all women, but Madison Gupta, you tick an extra box, I guess they could say, So, and Madison talked about it quite a lot in Clubhouse, but does that make it that little bit extra harder for you? Have you found that?
It does when I let it. I think I've always been the only female in many cases and or the only Black. And I'm at a point now in my career where I lean on those traits first when socializing, where I think the opportunities are wherever I am versus minimizing those. But it took time. It took a lot of time, because when I think about what we were just speaking on, which is kind of an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset that you sometimes see amongst women, that stuff starts early. And one contributor is the fact that when I was growing up, I only saw one on a good day. So then you're tempted to think, well, maybe for whatever reason, it doesn't make sense to me, but for whatever reason, there's only room for one. And that's stuff you keep telling yourself that isn't true. The other thing, slightly unrelated, that really chaps my cheeks, speaking of, being a person of color, is when leaders go, we don't know where the Black folks are at, therefore they're not in the recruiting pipeline. You don't know where they're at? Because I can go show you where they're at. Like, just follow me, I'll lead you. Because we're here. It's just a matter of reframing the mindset to say, I'm going to proactively look for the culture ads versus the culture fits, as we've, historically used that term. It's not as hard as we make it sometimes to be inclusive and inviting of folks that don't look like the norm.
And I've shared this example with some of you before, but I was asked to speak at a conference last year, and I always like to look at the agenda and who the speakers are, and there were no women speakers. 2-day conference, no females. And to me, that's a major red flag. I'm not going to actively speak at an event or with an organization that does not promote women and have female speakers. So I said, I'm happy to speak if I can work with you to help at least get 50% of the speakers to be female. So again, Madison, going along with what you said, where there's no Black people in this case, they were saying, well, we can't find any female speakers. And I said, well, let me show you.
But I've also heard a lot.
What does that even mean?
I've heard.
Where are you looking?
There's a lot of women that turn these invitations down as well. So as women, we need to be more, like, even if we're scared, just do it. Just try it. Just be there.
Yeah, Susan, if I can tap onto that. So some people ask me, because I started my speaking circuit when I was still in corporate, right? So I get questions all the time around, how did you do that? Like, how did you start speaking before you became an entrepreneur, and how did you have time? And about 4 years ago, as part of my development plan, I said, I want to help promote procurement. I want to help promote procurement for the industry. I want to help promote procurement for my company so we could recruit more people, better people. And so every time I got an invitation to a conference, I would respond to them and say, I'm more than happy to attend your conference, but only if I can speak on this topic. And it was as easy as that, right? And some people said, no, thanks. Other people said, yes, please. And it snowballed from there. So that, to me, it's like we can take that initiative to help promote ourselves, to help promote procurement, to help promote our companies. But sometimes it's like that choice that we have to make, and not to be afraid to put yourself out there and just start doing it. And was my first presentation great? No. Like, I was terrified. My knees were shaking. It was great. But now it's so natural because I've done it so often, and it's spiraled into so many other opportunities for me.
Thanks. Kavita, I just wanted to go back to your experience of, because you've worked in huge.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's interesting. I'm loving this conversation. I think the important thing is that we have to share experiences, and we have to be open and honest and transparent about what we've felt and what we've had. I mean, I had the most bizarre conversation about 3 weeks ago with an individual who'd approached me to come and work with us and do some work, and it was a gentleman. It's a middle-aged white man, comes on the call and says, "Oh, how are you doing?" And the first thing he said, "Oh, it's a really bad time to be white and male and middle-aged." It just floored me. And I said, wow, I'm incredibly sorry. It's so challenging for you at the moment. And I thought, how am I meant to respond to that? So we then had a very interesting conversation following that. And we haven't had one since, funnily enough. But yeah, it's an interesting time. And I think it's important to share stories. I think, Madison, everything you said really, hits the spot. But we need to encourage people, and it's great to be Asian and to be able to share where I am and what I've achieved, and to bring the next generation through. But it doesn't matter if you're Black, you're white, you're Indian, whatever. It's fantastic, and I just for me, it's just promote procurement. But the one message I would have for anybody being in corporate or being an entrepreneur, don't be scared to fail, right? You just got to get on with it. You've just got to do it. I did a post on that, I think yesterday. It was an interview with Steve Jobs, and he talked about be willing to act, and don't be scared of failure, because we all fail at some point. But if you don't do it and you don't just get on with it, you're never going to have that opportunity. So yeah, that would be my message, is whatever your background, just do it. Yeah, get on with it.
Yeah.
Well,
women are more prone though to self-limiting beliefs. So that is a gender character trait. Unfortunately, there's several studies that they say when a woman wants to apply for a job, she'll look at the job description, and if she doesn't tick 10 out of 10 boxes, she won't apply. Whereas a male counterpart will look at exactly the same job description, he'll hit 6 out of 10 and he'll apply because he's got the confidence to do it. So I think, these discussions, we need to lift women up and give them that confidence.
Actually, not to plug my own show, but in 2 weeks' time, for Valentine's Day special, day after, it's about learning to love yourself, and I've got my coach coming on to talk about limiting beliefs and self-confidence, and the traits that she finds that are quite common within her clients and things like that. So hopefully that can give everyone some tips as well. But do you notice it, Hayley, when the difference between like screening men and male and female candidates, and the responses to answers and things like that? Do you find it hugely varies?
Yeah, it can do. And I think, something as basic as a job description, even some of the wording or some of the text within that can put women off. It's very male dominated words, how some of these job descriptions are written nowadays. So I definitely feel there's a difference when I interview people. I think the big challenge I have at the moment is with organizations. Everybody's talking about diversity and inclusion, and it's on everyone's agenda. But I'll have a company come to me and say, we need to recruit. The first thing I'll do is look at their board, and all I see is white men looking back at me. And I'm like, okay, so you want to attract a diverse talent pool, but what are you doing at board level to attract those individuals? It's got to start somewhere. So, part of my job is that education piece as well, and challenging organizations. If you want a diverse talent pool, you've got to make it attractive for people to work for you. And at the moment, looking at your board, you're not representative of the workforce you're trying to attract. So I think that's huge at the moment.
I'm just loving this conversation. It's amazing. I could go on for another hour. So I guess, what advice would you give to women who are starting out their procurement careers, for those that want to progress and move up the organization?
For me, I would say find your voice and run with it. So it took me a while in my career to actually be comfortable and confident with who I am. I'm kind of a quirky, offbeat person, and I like humor, and I was always maybe afraid to portray that type of person because I thought it would impact my career. And now that I've become an entrepreneur and I run my own company, I don't care what people think of me anymore, and I'm not afraid to have my voice and let it show. So that would be my advice for people who are starting out. Be who you are, be authentic, and be yourself.
Great advice.
Susan, if I can add it. So last week we had our Glitter 2021 event for GWPP, and we had an amazing interview. And we're actually dropping the video today. So everyone go out and look for that post. But part of the conversation that Genti actually mentioned, she was brand new to the industry, trying to navigate through, and she had an opportunity, and she thought to herself, I don't know how to type, but I know how to think. And so in my notes, I put down, I don't know how to do X, Y, Z, but I know how to think. And if I would have had someone tell me that early in my career, I know how to think. Amanda, you know how to think, and have the confidence in myself that I know how to think, I probably would have opened so many more doors. So I think that's the best advice that I could give at this moment in time, that have confidence that you know how to think. You might not know how to do X, Y, and Z, but you know how to think.
I think for me, it's go ahead. Go.
Go ahead.
We're also polite because we're ladies.
Because we're ladies. So for me, it's simply trust that people enjoy being along for the ride. When I first joined Fair Market, I took to LinkedIn before any of y'all could tell on me. I don't know how to spell procurement. I don't understand procurement people. What are y'all possibly going to say to me? Because I already told them myself. And now let's have some fun. I think that's key when you're new to a space and new to a role, because it helps build trust. And also, I think in general, particularly in times such as this, we've got to give ourselves a little bit more grace. We're all working from home, and it's kind of a hot mess, and that's okay. It doesn't make us any less of a professional, but just that keeping it real never goes wrong, in my opinion. And it's going to be okay at the end of the day, regardless of if we're getting it right or wrong every moment of the day.
Awesome.
Sarah?
I love that. I love that. And having fun, right, is what Madison just said. And for me, I think it's just getting started. You're, again, saying what I said earlier, you're not going to know what you don't know. And so if you start somewhere in supply chain, or you start somewhere in procurement, and you get into an organization and you don't feel like it resonates with you, or it's not something that you really want to be doing, try to see if you could move, vertically and try something new, and keep trying something until it resonates with you, until it's encompasses you holistically, right? You've got a lot of professional traits, you've got a lot of personal traits, and you want to find somewhere where you can utilize both to really help that company succeed. So yeah, my advice would be just dive in and just get started and figure it out along the way, and have some fun, like Madison said.
And don't worry if you can't spell procurement, because I always miss that first E.
It's a mouthful. It's like, dang.
I can't. I still can't. Every day I must have to write it 10 times. I never get it right. So don't worry if you can't spell it. Just do it.
Right.
Anyone else? No.
I was just going to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Build your network. And I'd say that regardless of what career you do, build your network. And this forum of women is fantastic. So if you're on here and you're listening, connect. I imagine everybody on here will make themselves available if need be. But build your network. It can't be just more important.
To say that, I only knew you a year ago. All these other ladies I've met through LinkedIn online. You know, the world is not just wherever you live anymore. You can have a network across the globe. So, you know, reach out, connect with as many people as you can, learn from them.
And use Procurious, because that's really good as well.
Yeah. And GWP and the Proctopus and Procurement Foundry. There's loads.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Amen.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, ladies. Been the most fantastic hour. I think we need to do it again in the summer at some point. So I will definitely pencil something else in if you're up for it, because I think we could discuss again for another hour. Any final thoughts from any of you? Where can everyone find you? LinkedIn, I guess, is your best hangouts.
Yes.
One last shout out for GWPP, Amanda.
So on LinkedIn, if you want to join us for more discussions on women in procurement, please join our GWPP group, Global Women Procurement Professionals, on LinkedIn. It's a free forum for everyone, and we will be doing a lot on Clubhouse and webinars and other activities. So we cannot wait to continue this type of conversation.
Brilliant. I'd encourage everyone to join up.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to quietly sneak our ladies away while I talk to you about a couple of events that are coming up. There we go. So many. It's crazy. We have quite a few events coming up. So I just wanted to share those with you. So the first thing I want to share with you is Proc Women. So the powder room. So that is going to happen once a month. It's going to be a closed Zoom room for women to have a discussion about their experiences, any problems, hopefully some mentorship. So there's a link in the chat somewhere, so you can go and register for that. The first one is, I think, the 17th. It is February the 17th. So why not sign up for those? We'd love for you to come along, and we'd also love to hear any suggestions of any topics you'd like to talk about. Then also there is the Procurement Foundry's Forge Supplier Diversity and Inclusion event on Thursday the 25th. So if you would like to sign up for that, I believe it's free for all Procurement Foundry members to attend, so it's definitely worthwhile. And then finally, next week, I am pleased to announce that I will have Professor Joe O'Mahony and Dylan Jones on. Professor Joe has done research into building consultancies and selling consultancies, and which ones are successful and which ones fail. And Dylan Jones has successfully trained people to run and manage their own data consultancies. So that's going to be a really great one. I would just like to say thank you so much for your time today. I have had a wonderful time. I hope you have too. I'm trying to get my screen off now and it doesn't seem to, I've lost my mouse. This is going really, there we go. Yeah, I've had a great time. I hope you have too. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you next week. And yeah, if you've got any suggestions or any future guests, why not let me know? Nice to see you. Bye.